Here's 7 tips to improve in Apex Legends. Number 1. Play duos with a teammate. Playing duos with a friend is way more manageable than 3 players. You only need to be on the same page with one other person versus 2, and when you are fighting another team, you only need to worry about 2 other players. Fights in duos are usually a lot cleaner than trios because once you have knocked one player, the other player either runs or stays and gets eliminated. In most cases, that is. Practicing this process on a smaller scale will allow you to slow things down a bit and in theory allow you to improve quicker in terms of taking fights and winning more fights. If you're doing trios or duos with no full, this may be doing more harm than good. Firstly, this is unrealistic, and secondly, it could ruin your confidence. Comparing yourself to an Asu being able to 3v1, no fulls versus you doing no fulls and losing fight after fight will be wasting your time. Your time will be far better spent queuing up in a duo or trio and learning how to play with your team. Playing with teammates allows you to practice your communication and practice your ability to provide intel, which is of vital importance. How often has the following scenario occurred? You queue up with an Octane who doesn't talk the whole game, runs into an ambush and screams at how trash you are when he is dead and spams the spacebar begging you to be revived. Tip number 2. Drop hot and take as many fights as possible within reason. Stop looting for the first 10 minutes of the game and playing for late game only. You will not improve, and you end up playing Loot Simulator. It's boring. Yes, Apex Predators play this way, but that is because they are the top 750 in the world. Not to be mean or anything, but if you're in bronze, silver, or gold, you should be looking to improve your fighting, not focusing too much on the macro, rotations and zones, etc. And no, this doesn't mean dropping hot with half the lobby and zero thought process going into hot dropping. You need to be a little realistic here. Up front, you should be looking to drop with one other team and trying to win those fights. If you lose that fight, at least you'll be back in the lobby, ready to repeat the same thing. The 10 minutes you chose to play Loot Simulator could have been used to have taken and lost 3 fights off drop in which you would have improved more because you would have had 3 opportunities to learn from. Looting isn't complex. Aim to have all purple everything. That's all there is to it. Tip number 3. Learn to loot quickly and stick with your teammates. 2 or 3 players who work together and have all grey loot who get a jump on a single person on the opposing team who has taken the time to try and find their purple loot will often win that fight. The person who tries to focus on loot generally loses, because they are more focused on their loot instead of potential dangers in the area. The team who fights together stays together. This is because they win more fights, and if you die, you go back to the lobby. You cannot only be available for a fight once you are happy with your loot. The game does not work like that. Too often, I see players lose unnecessary fights because one player in a team has bitched out because he hasn't got his R301 with all purple attachments. You need to be adaptable here. If you're dropping hot in pubs, the team who works together to get a damage advantage over the other team will most likely win that fight 9 times out of 10. Yes, there's a bit of emotional damage there. By doing this, you will learn your limits. You'll be surprised what you can pull off with the Wingman and a Mozambique and helping your team output damage. I guarantee you will surprise yourself as to how effective you can be with your perceived bad loadout. The aim of the game is to make sure you are getting a damage advantage over the enemy team and playing together. The best part about it is, the person who has focused on looting has now gathered all the loot for the players who have been focused on fighting as a team. Tip number 4. Have a fighter's mentality and go actively looking for smart fights. This entails always scouting for teams to fight. If you're in pubs, do not back out of a fight. You want to make your mistakes in pubs and increase your confidence, so that when you do eventually try outrank, you aren't afraid to take fights. Let's take a boxer's analogy into account quickly. If a boxer only ever practices his defense and never practices counterpunching, how is that boxer going to ever counterpunch with confidence? Same goes for taking fights in Apex. The more fights you take, the more you will learn. You will get to a point where you are comfortable in an uncomfortable situation and be able to hold your own, air quoting. If you are losing 1v1s, that generally is your fault and your fault alone. Not your team's, not anything else. Take responsibility for your mistakes and learn from it. Tip number 5. Capitalize on your advantage. If you beam a player on the other team, try not give them time to recoup and reset. This is what great players do well. They put their pedal to the metal once they see an advantage and they use that advantage. Apex is a fast-paced game and every second counts. If you beam a player and allow them to reset, the beam never existed. The opportunity to close the fight is gone within seconds. Again, this is where good decision making is practiced. This is what you want to be working on. The more time you give your opponents time to find their bearings, the less likely you are to win that fight. Reason being is they might just be better coordinated than you and turn the fight quickly. Secondly, the longer the fight goes on for, the larger the threat of a third party is. So try to finish those fights quickly and easy. Use your advantage. If you die, you probably made a mistake cleaning up the fight. Tip number 6. Avoid the hindsight 2020 vision gamer. Hindsight is always 2020. How often do you queue up with your friends, take a fight that you all committed to, lose the fight, return to the lobby, and you or your friend says something along the lines of, "We should have not taken that fight," or "We should have not pushed that." The truth is, in that moment you took the fight based off the assumption that enough information was taken in to ensure you would win that fight and communicated that to one another. The simple tip is to just stop being that person. It's far easier to turn that into a self-reflecting moment where there's an opportunity for personal growth and improvement by identifying where you went wrong and where you could have possibly communicated information to your team better. I, for one, struggle to communicate in intense situations, so I need to make sure that during fights I'm giving my team enough intel to help them help me. Let's be honest here for a second. How can I expect my team to know what is happening if the intel I'm giving them is 0 to no information? It's not going to happen. Tip number 7. Watch pro play and big streamers. I cannot express this enough. Watching pro play is effectively VOD reviewing. Playing Apex and watching Apex are two different learning opportunities. Watching Apex can help you identify potential mistakes pros make or identifying what they do well. It allows you to take the time to learn the game from an onlooker's point of view. Once you have noticed a few pointers, I guarantee you that when you are in a similar situation in your next ranked game, your thought process will be, "Oh, remember when so-and-so was in this situation? They did this. Let's try it." This allows you to train your analytical thinking and decision making in Apex Legends, which is a large part of climbing the ranks and improving your skills. Understanding what a pro player does and why they did what they did is vital to understanding the fundamentals of the game. Pro players do the fundamentals very well, and you can too with these tips. If you guys found this video somewhat informative and helpful, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Good luck out there.